Awesome. All right. Well, it's always an honor and a privilege to be here. So we can go ahead and get started. So let me start at the top. So call the order and then welcome in the roll call. So there's two of us here. So the date. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. We also have Co-Chair Adams with us. So I appreciate that. So start off with the time and the date. So it's 6:02. This meeting today is from about 6 to 7:30, depending, and we're at the CPC office. That's 3631 Perkins Avenue. And so go ahead and get started with roll call. So I'll start with Commissioner Miller.
Present.
All right, and then I am also present, Commissioner Mosin, and then I'll do the meeting decorum. So this meeting of the Cleveland Community Police Commission is a lawful meeting under section 605.04 of the codified ordinances. No person with purpose to prevent or disrupt a lawful meeting shall do in any fact which obstructs or interferes with the due conduct of such meeting. Members of the public are invited to speak in accordance with the public comment rules. Disruptions, including but not limited to speaking out of turn and or making loud utterances that interferes with the due conduct of this lawful meeting may constitute a misdemeanor and a violation of section 605.04. If this meeting is disrupted, I will call for a recess and the room will be cleared. Persons who violate the city ordinances and commit misdemeanors may be subject to prosecution. When the body is able to return from recess, then in compliance with the Ohio Open Meeting Act and section 101.021 of the codified ordinances, the meeting will be open to the public. All right. And next thing we have on the agenda is public comments. Okay. So we got public comment next. So we'll see if, got you. Yeah. So we'll see if I do a public comment.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
You don't got to. Just ask them.
You always
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want me to make?
That's okay. We can switch and do public comment after we go through some of the items. You just came right on time, so we was like, okay. So I appreciate that. So we'll go to public comment. We'll move that. Public comment. I'm sure we'll have time for that. So the next thing on the agenda we have is new business. So there's some things that we wanted to discuss as far as, this grant cycle and this grant process that we've been going through. So the first item on the new business we had was consolidating the 2024 and the 2025 grant cycles and moving those cycles into one. So kind of like the discussion's been for people who haven't received funding in 2024, is there a way, and we're all talking about it with it together, co-chairs, Director Williams, we're kind of figuring out what's like the best way to go through it, closing this chapter. What came to mind was consolidating it. So anyone who was awarded funding in 2024, providing that opportunity in 2025 for them to receive funding as well, just to keep, if someone has a program going, being able to keep that program going. So those type of things that come into mind. But I also want to keep it like an open discussion as well, kind of like how we feel about that.
I would like for people who have not received funding to give them a chance to receive funding instead of saying people keep receiving it. That's what I would like. I would also like to think about maybe startup companies, maybe a certain portion, maybe of a startup companies or something. I did speak with Director Williams about that as well. But yeah, it's just that I would like to see different, individuals get the funding.
Got you, and I appreciate that. Earlier this month, I had a conversation with Councilwoman House Jones. We were trying to brainstorm as far as the grant process, because she's done a lot of great work within the community organizations, and kind of figuring out that exact sentiment of like how do we streamline funding for organizations that are also startups or have an idea and they're trying to do a community program. And so that's something that we can definitely work through. We have some ideas for 2026, which I'll get into a little bit later. And we can kind of see what if that'll work for that process. So we have that going on. The other thing too is, what we've been trying to work through is that there are grantees who have finished their program. So it might be some people have an ongoing program, then it's some grantees who had one that had a start and end date that had maybe already been completed. And so that's kind of the part of trying to combine the 2024, 2025, if that was the case, if the program's completed, as far as like showing, what you've done for that point makes it a little tricky.
I'm sorry, to the chair. Am I, so you want to combine 24 and 25 or 25 and 26?
Got you. Thank you. So it will be combining 2024 and 2025, that grant cycle. So that's the idea. So where your dots, or is it combining maybe 2025, 2026?
That's what I was thinking, because when we just move forward with 2024, clear that, and then just move forward like a clean slate, maybe.
Got you.
It's a little cumbersome going, combining 24 and 25.
Okay. Now I understand that. And then from what we had listed was, how do you feel about if it's combined? Let's say if it's 2024 and 2025, it would be like the same organizations that were awarded money for 24, keeping it just open for them as far as just combining them receiving funds in 2025, like the 2025 pool of money. So would it be like anyone new as far as be opening up for 2026? So that's the one setup for it. The other one is, I know you mentioning 2025 and then 2026, how you feel like that would go. Because I know we passed 2025, which is kind of what makes it kind of trying to connect the two. What are your thoughts on if we combine 2025 and 2026?
I feel that would be best moving forward. It's just that 2024, that should be, we should be closing those books. Like, get these people out the way, get them their money, because I'm sure they have debts and things to pay. So I feel, let's make them right and move forward.
Got you. I appreciate that. Okay, so we can see what we can do. So I appreciate that, because we're trying to figure out that best way or that best process. Definitely for 2024 to close, that chapter. So I appreciate that. The other thing that we wanted to talk about, kind of in related to that, was for 2026, since this is, the current year now, if there's anything different that we wanted to do from what we've seen so far, because we've seen how long, this process has taken, how it goes when grantees are sending information, and it's like we have to send it, to the law department, it has to go to finance, and it's just a lot of hands in the pot that makes it, take too long. And so what some people do is they might say, okay, right, what's the way to streamline it to, if you're working with an organization, we're working with United Black Fund, like for them to also distribute, the funds that way. So in that type of setup. So, and also just discussion, what comes to mind as far as different for 2026? I know you mentioned definitely grassroots organizations has to be a part of how we can kind of get out that money, but then also, ways that are quicker ways to get out the money for 2026.
I want to go back to, please don't take this the wrong way, anyone. Trying to choose my words wisely. We need to sit down with UBF and see how they are collecting these documents, how they're getting to each point. There's some gap. There's something that's, there's a disconnect somewhere.
Yeah.
We need to see from the day this application process goes out, we need to follow it. We need steps on the process. Who gets the paperwork? Where is it kept? We need to really, because if we need to pull something and get audited or anything, where is it? Yeah. And then it was a lot of, oh, we don't have this, we don't have that. I sent it to the law department. We need a better system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Too much money to just be willy-nilly.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that, because that is true. There was a lot of grantees where some of them were letting us know, right, they were sending it to the law department. Some of them came to city employees. Some of them came to, us individually as far as documentation. So it has been all over the place trying to shore it up. But the same thing comes to mind as far as, right, there needs to be that central place. And so the other item that we had on new business was UBF's involvement, in the CPC grant application and disbursement. And then that one too, it seems like, right, in that agreement, maybe, I'm not sure if all documentation, right, went to them. It seemed like it did, but then also in the same breath, there needed to be like more of like a cohesion between, okay, who's just the one entity receiving all the documentation. And I think that in the contract that we had, and kind of looking back at it, it was, it just wasn't happening the way we wanted to happen. So I'm not sure, Co-Chair Adams, is there anything you want? We were talking about the UBF involvement with the, with the grant process and everything.
To the chair, I think the only thing I might be able to add is I think that we are working together with them, just basically clarifying, not necessarily just like starting over, but I think that there was not clarity on what everyone's roles were. So I think that is important, that everyone's on the same page. So I think, I don't know, is there a meeting this week with them, or
I think it might be next
week, 23rd, I think it is. But I just think that's where we are. I think we just want to clarify what everyone's role is.
Not just the role, but the process.
Yeah.
Once it's received, we need some clear. And we're using their services again?
Right, we did
We
extend them for 2025, so that they have to decide if we want to do 2026 with them.
Right.
Got you. So that's definitely a main thing for the setup. Again, Karen, what we've talked about is just kind of just limiting the amount of hands in the conversation. I know we even literally, as far as the conversation, it was just me and a representative from UBF kind of exchanging information, seeing what we can do, just because it was just too many people involved in that way. But I'm really excited though about kind of when we close the chapter for this 2026, what we can do. I know really quickly we were talking about like new things we can do in 2026, but also kind of in our discussion was, we talked about combining 2024 and 2025, but then also if there was a way to combine 2025 and 2026. But I know the contract with UBF makes it that, right, they extend it to 2026. It would be them or someone. So I guess that would kind of be something, but we can always see what, what the appetite is. Yeah.
How many do we have in 2023? Like, how many? We're not done? Like, where are we with that?
You can say, so I'll finish it up. Yeah.
And my understanding of where things are is that I know that once, E.D. Williams came in, because she just came on, she wanted to basically kind of almost do an audit almost. And so what she's done is, and Jocelyn can speak to it, but they've been working on making sure that every person's file has what it needs. And if it's missing something, she wants to get them all completed, and she wants to get them over to law for a contract, for their contracts. So that's sort of where it is right now. If she wasn't here, she wants to make sure that things are proper. So I don't know how close you guys are to getting it done.
Do you want me to speak real quick?
Oh yeah.
I was just going to say, I'm I'm right next to it.
Okay.
I'm almost done going through all of them to see what they are missing, if any. But then what Shelly was saying is UBF might have what I'm missing. So I tried calling them the other day. I did go to voicemail. They might have called me back, but I was at a career fair today for the city on behalf of CPC. So they might have called me, and I don't know how to get into the voicemail. But I'm going to email them tomorrow once I go through that definitive list to say, hi, I don't have anything at all for these people, because there's a few that there's nothing in their folder, but maybe UBF has that. And just for the other few, like, do you by any chance have this one? But then once I figure that out, there's a couple of forms that the CPC has to fill out. I hope that I was just going to copy what Michelle, the previous office manager, did on those, and hope, fingers crossed, that once we send it over to the city that they're approved. Because there's a checklist and I don't know what any of that stuff means. I was just going to check what the other ones have checked off.
Yeah.
But then there's a few that I need to send a vendor registration form, and then send that. I need to figure out where that goes so they can get put into the city system, so that then I can fill out one of those forms. So for a few of them, they're not in our city system yet. I need to send their W-9s and the vendor registration form, but I don't know who. And I think Shelly asked yesterday, so I don't have the answer to that yet. I think, yeah.
Through the chair, moving forward, I don't think we should accept incomplete packages. I'm sorry.
It's not that they're incomplete.
Yeah.
I think it's just, because there were so many people, things may have got lost, and people weren't, might not, even be aware of what they're missing. And even if they sent the correct thing, it might not be, what exactly the city is looking for. And I think that's what's frustrating is I don't know who at the city can provide clarification because, I don't have any experience with grants and things like this. So I don't know what I'm looking at, what I'm looking for, with these certificates of insurance, they send that over. Is this what they need? I have no clue.
Right. That's what happens a lot of times. It's that the grantees believe that they have submitted what is being requested, but then sometimes the city says it's not
The right thing.
the right thing, and then they have to. It's a back and forth, and that happens too. So it's not that they're just like being negligent. A lot of times it's like they thought that they sent it in, and then the city's like, no, this isn't what we want.
Yeah, and thank you for this the clarification. Just because, and to peel back the layers on that, it's generally around 9 documents that grantees have to submit. I think the process of how it was going now, right? We talked about kind of the different places the documents were going, but the general rule was once those documentation or the 9 documents are received by the law department, then from there they verify everything's accurate. Then it's sent to the finance department.
We'll have to write the contract.
They have to write the contract. Then it's sent to the finance department. Then they're added into the vendor registration system, and then they're able to.
I need to get them in the
You
vendor
need to get them in
before I even submit it for contract.
before you submit it for contract. So it's like it's all these different, parts to it. You try to reach out to certain people, you don't get, all the information that you need. I know for me coming in, I was like, this is an easy process. I'm like, okay, I saw people submitted documentation. I seen that type of stuff was happening. I'm like, okay, so let me just send the contract to the grantee. And it's like, I can't do that. And it's like, okay, you have to wait on the director. You got a director now. I'm sure some things that's happening on that that could be faster for her. But then it's like, but it's like, we're not going to quit. But it's like, it's just going to take additional time, to make sure that happens. So a lot of people have sent, people have sent everything they need. They're good. But it's this process. That's why for 2026, when we kind of talk about it now, it's like, we ain't doing this for 2026. So whatever way that means, streamlining the process, working with an organization like United Black Fund or anyone else to streamline getting the money out. That's the most important bucket. All the games with the this and that and what's needed is like, at this point, it's like we waiting on 2024. And I don't care whose fault it is. People trying to throw blame. It don't matter whose fault it is. I love the little blame thing, but it's like we not, it's not. Yeah. So I appreciate that. I appreciate y'all providing the kind of the background context. So that's what we're working on for right now, but still kind of figuring out that 2024 and plus 2025 or 2025 is kind of what we kind of want to figure out where the best.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
Yeah.
Taya, because I know you said you wanted to do 2025, 2026, and just because Shelly's not here, I'll just tell you about, what she relayed to me.
I hear it now because.
Oh, okay, yeah, I was going to say
because of UBF connection.
Yeah, I think their whole thing was they wanted to combine 2024, 2025 just to get those out of the way so we could start new with the 2026.
Start with the 2025.
Well, that's the thing. They just want to keep it with the, give it to the people who, so that they can get both years at once. Does that make sense?
It makes sense for all the trouble they went through.
Right.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
And I think that combining them will be the smartest decision for one, because I was just talking to, one of our grantees, Victoria Trotter, and what we don't want to do to these organizations, because a lot of these are small organizations, we don't want them to go through this bureaucratic process, and then right after they go through the process, they get their money, and now they have to start getting ready to go through the bureaucratic process again. So I think that would be, we should seriously think about that because it's a lot for a small, organization. And then I also think that at some point, I would like to see us do maybe bigger grants in 2026. Like we've always done the 50,000 below, but at some point, I would like to see us give someone or someone's some larger grants, and then that would be good for us because we've never actually gone through that process of going to council and for something over 50,000. But I think that I would like to see us be open to figuring out like how we would want to give like a bigger grants away. Like I don't know if we would want to think about grants for the districts, right? And then maybe like there's like figure out some way that District 1 is going to get, there's this much money going into this district, this much money is going into 5, and this one's going to 4. I don't know. I would like to see us do a larger grant, but clearly we have to figure out these small ones first, right?
Yeah.
But I would like to see us do that.
I appreciate that. And as far as in talking about 2026, just because we're here and talking about it, like, is there anything that comes to mind, just as far as like shifts that we want to make for 2026, and not just making it like streamlined, but I like that idea that you mentioned. If there's a way to do bigger grants, then like you said, making sure that grassroots organizations are taken care of too. Is there anything else that comes to mind as far as like ideas for 2026? If nothing right now, that's cool too, but just
Yeah, I can brainstorm. I can think of some stuff.
got you.
Yeah. I just think I like the fact that Councilwoman House Jones is helping to advocate.
Yeah.
For us, like I was telling council earlier, we didn't know. We were brand new, and we were told that this is how the city does contracts. You guys are going to follow that same process. We were, brand new, just learning and trusting, and we went with it. But I just, I appreciate all of the work that the lawyers at the law department have done to help us, but we still, our priority has to be these community members and these community organizations, and I just don't think that this process is going to work for them. I just don't think that this process is working for them. And I'm always talking about the charter. Excuse me, because that's just sort of like the lens by how I view all the work that I do on the commission. Like, what does the charter say? And the charter only has one line about the grants. It says we have to do a grant making program.
Yep.
It doesn't say how we have to do it.
Yep.
It doesn't say we have to do a certain process.
Yep.
It doesn't hold us to the city's internal processes. And I think we tried this for 3 years now. I do not think it's working for us. I do not think it's working for the grantees. So I'm happy to hear, especially from the councilwoman, there's a process. It requires steps and legislation and things like that, but there is a process that we could go through where we can get the grant money, secure it for UBF, and then have them go through the process of actually distributing. And that will
help us with that.
Yeah, that'll help the grantees with all this stuff with like their hardships and all this stuff that they have to go through, to get this installment, and now they gotta wait to get this installment. Like, I just feel that we have to do like an assessment. I think we're kind of doing it now, like we're like diagnosing what the issues are. And now I think we have to figure out what is legally within our authority that we, what we can do. I mean, it's not to, it's not to be critical of the law department, but I just feel that we always have to remember that our obligation is to the public, and if there are city processes in place that are really adverse to like our goals and what we want to do for people in the community, I think we have an obligation just to figure out a better process, because these are normal people working jobs, running organizations, and there definitely needs to be accountability. Like, we know it's public money. We want to have accountability. We want to be able to, know where all what's to happen with everything. But, even I've never seen something like this take this long where, you know, we've awarded people something in 2024.
Yeah.
And here we are in 2026.
Through the chair. It is 2026 now. Is it possible in at least April or something, we can start like forming that conversation? I mean, I hear close this up, but start getting on to 2026. You know, so we're not at the end of 20, you know, keep being behind.
Yep.
So at least by June, we should have something in place, you know, starting to roll them out or something. We have to give ourselves timelines to work towards.
Yeah, I think like the goal is like my goal. I would hope that we can get to a point where like people can get their money in the beginning of the year, right?
Yeah.
Ideally, like they would be able to get a 2026 grant. You should get your money January of 2026. So I think that was, I think one of the impetus behind combining the 2 years.
Which for the UBF, I get that one now. And closing that out.
Yeah, so that
Because
if you want to,
okay, good. I'll ask.
you have to vote to consolidate.
Right.
But we
Okay.
don't have to vote.
Oh, which one?
You have to do the letter.
Oh,
We don't have to vote on that. But we
Oh,
do have
okay.
to vote on it. We're gonna approve it to the commission, then we're gonna combine it.
Okay, got you. I appreciate that, and I just want to say, really quickly, for the 2024 and 2025, let's say if we wanted to go ahead and combine them for, you know, those grantees, we would have to vote to do it, to bring to the full commission. So that's if we want, we could do that today, or we could, you know, give like a little bit more time to think about it, or we could do it today.
Because our next full commission is next week, right?
Yeah, it's next week. Yep.
We got to start moving instead of, you know.
Yep. So we can do that now. As far as for the agenda, is there anything I have to do if I want to do that now, since it's not?
You just make a motion.
Oh, shoot. Hey, I appreciate that. Okay, so look, so I make a motion to consolidate the 2024 and 2025 grant cycle into one. Again, like what we've talked about, that process is to just, you know, close the chapter on 2024 and 2025. There's grantees that are still working and doing programs, and that helps in that way. So I put that motion forward to the commission.
I second that motion.
All right,
Discussion.
discussion? All right, great. And so we do the vote. We'll vote, Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
and I vote yes, so it passes. So take that to the full commission, to vote on consolidating the grants, the 2024 and 2025.
All right.
Nice.
Do you want, would you guys like to say anything for public
Yeah,
comment?
public. We'll do that next. Okay. So yeah, so go ahead and move on to public comment. So we shifted that. So we'll do a public comment now.
Hello, how you doing? Apologies for being late. First, my name is Victoria Trotter, and I'm the Executive Director of Green Movement Glenville, and I received a grant in 2023, October. I think we got awarded September, October 2023. And I'd just kind of like to tell you a little bit about my experience. First, I'm so grateful that I didn't turn this grant down. A lot of people did. We didn't know it was reimbursement. And that's basically when you're dealing with the city's reimbursement. So, you know, you don't have 45K laying around. So we submitted all our documents, and then they said, hey, you got to put some money up first. And then they said, with this other process, it's hardship. You can go through that. That was a whole nother issue, but we went through it. And I can tell you what happened with our personal insurance on our business insurance, it doubled. It went from $2,000 to $4,000 because the city required us to put them on our insurance. They're still on our insurance, but you know, as a nonprofit, they made us cover all this stuff. So but now we got good, you know, we got the insurance covers the, you know, it covers all the officers, it covers anybody that comes on the property. So that was a result. So we incurred that cost, and then we lost our audience because it took so long to get the money. We didn't get the money to June of 2024. took so long to get the money that we lost our audience, which was Glendale, the school of Glendale, because they were out for the summer and we had to wait around. And then when we did approach them, they weren't really interested. And we had to go find another group, which we found the Cleveland Peacemakers, which was good. And we thought we'd be able to produce 2 newspapers, but we lost our publisher because there were some issues with that. So it was just a lot of moving parts here. But I can tell you what happened. I was forced to think outside the box. I really was. And I did. And I produced something that I'm really proud of and that the community resonates with. We didn't get to do our second issue, but we did get to do the podcast. So we had to switch some things out. And we're still going to do another issue, no matter what happens, because it is important. This is important to our community to tell these stories. And we talk about restorative justice. And I wasn't really clear about restorative justice until I started this project. Then I realized how important it really was to the community as a tool. Because we can't stop people. We can't stop violent behavior. If you read our newspaper, the Glenville Brigade News, I actually had to become the publisher and the editor, but I had some great people helping me with it. If you read it, you'll see that we all have this intersection with violence. And we think we're immune and we think we're desensitized, but we're really not. And so what this provides us is a pathway towards healing, towards making, and perpetrator and victim, to make amends. Because what I realized doing this paper, 25 to life don't mean 25 to life. So if you go in jail and you're 20 and you're 25, you're going to be back on the street when you're 40, you're 45, and you're going to look right in there, or somebody that knows you're going to look at your perpetrator. So we got to find some healing. So I really want to say that I'm really grateful. I don't think I would be able to say this, but standing here, I can tell you that it made me flex a muscle I didn't know I had. And I want to make this process easier. As a small entity, it has been very difficult. It took me a year to do this project because I wanted to do it right. It was important. But, you know, I extended so many resources. And if I had had access to the Capitol, some of the things I didn't have to go through, some of the things could have been abated. But the program as itself, for me, it has been nothing but a
win-win. Our podcast is coming out. We produced a podcast called Up From Here with Vince Evans. He's profiled in that the Glendale Brigade News. We got to profile the Peacemakers. Maisha just got appointed by Chris Ronayne, Violence and Prevention. She's the first one appointed. We've captured those stories. And, you know, what the least we can do in what our community, the minimum is tell our stories. And this provides a vehicle to tell our stories. And without this grant, without the Cleveland Police Commission, it wouldn't have been possible. I wouldn't even thought about it. So I'm grateful, and I hope that you do find a way to alleviate the burden on grantees, because they do need, you know, faster access to their resources, you know, that were promised. Because there are a lot of ancillary costs that go with this. They're not direct costs, but costs we incur just to do this program. But it really is a very important program. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Beard, and I've been attending your meetings just in the last month or so. And I know at the last meeting, there were a couple agencies that had done their work and they had not received their funding, but they had to, as she said, put out the money. And they're like, you know, churches, nonprofit organizations. So I'm reiterating that that is a problem. I do have a suggestion. I appreciated your saying there's only one line that tells you about the grant process. So in attending this meeting, I would like to hear the intention, like the amount of funding that was available in the previous years. How many agencies were funded for each year? And then, because I heard you say that some had not even been contracted from 2024 or 2025.
Yeah.
Okay, so how many still need to be contracted? But my assumption, and I've worked in funding, distribution, allocations for United Ways in different states. I've worked on a funding commission with the state of Ohio. So I have a lot of suggestions. One thing is I would like to see at the next grant committee that the city staff who are assigned to work with you are at the meeting, and that you all really get through discussing what was the intended process before and how you want to modify change. Because when you all just talk about it, but they have so much a part of. One major suggestion, because most grant funding organizations, foundations, they do not have a nonprofit organization present a proposal and tell them reimburse it. Some of them will give them the whole check. But I think for your purposes that you want to make sure it is accountable. So, and because as you said, it was a new process for you, it's also a new process for the agencies. So if you could give them 25% upon being awarded within a 30-day period of time or whatever, because now when you talk about consolidated, you also have to adjust what they said they were going to do, because they projected doing something for either 2024 or 2025. Some of them were able to do it, and then some of them you have to modify their process. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if you tell me the amount of the grants, that will help me too. But here's another question. Because of the problems, what happens if you don't fund for 2026? Because you said what you would like to do is make the decision in the quarter before the new year, which might mean that figuring out, and I'm sorry, I said with the city, you also need United Black Fund here too. And consider hiring a consultant to help develop the full process for you. It can still come through United Black Fund, but then you have the various different perspectives on how to do it from people who are experienced in it, and then you can get a good process. I guess I'm gonna try to put some things in writing and some suggestions. I suggested before that you have a advisory committee to your, and then you have additional thinkers on it. I can recommend a couple consultants who could work in this area and help. I'm also willing to, do it voluntarily. Some. So if I could at least hear the answer to those questions about the amounts of the funding, and how many from the 2024-25 would be consolidated to put together. Because then you do have to have at least a meeting, something in writing, how they're going to implement it in school. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Who's going back?
Thank you. Yeah, so I appreciate that. Thank you, because I know, and we had talked kind of as far as what we can do, if it makes sense, because it definitely seems like it makes sense to do like a working group or some type of, like you said, advisory committee as far as to get community opinions on what 2026 looks like. So that for sure is something that we want to do. For amounts, Jocelyn, isn't it on our website?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we send that to
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you say?
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Can you say?
Oh, it's like a list of like 50 of them.
yeah.
No, I'm
So we
sorry.
can get.
I'm talking about the overall, in 2024, you funded
We could
$1
do it
million-
after. We could do
$1
it
million.
because it's
Okay,
yes.
so-
Yeah. Go ahead.
And how much you would have for 2026?
So 2023, we did, we have 1.083 million. We awarded 26 organizations up to 50,000. So I think we ended up with somewhere around $1,075,000. 2023. 2024, I believe the amount was 1.18 million. Part of that went to UBS, so I think in the end we ended up with about a little under $1,044,000.
Yeah.
And I think that they did more organizations in 2024 than what we.
1,444,604
Okay.
everything together.
Yeah.
So I know that the
Yeah,
UBF,
it's on our website.
they did more organizations, so I think there was somewhere around 40,
Yeah, yeah,
something like that.
Mhm.
So that's where we are. We haven't done anything for 2025. Now, we're working out the kinks of 2025 grants from the 2024 selections. So I don't think but I think the budget for that before we award UBF, I think it's like 1.194 or something like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Something like that. So the amount changes with the police's budget. Because the grants are awarded as a 0.5% of whatever the police's budget is. And so if the police budget goes up, our budget goes up, and then there's also the consumer.
Yeah, consumer power index.
Yeah. So that's where we are right now. And I think
We did ask you some questions. What happened if you did not grant any funds for 2026? Any grants? What was that?
You figure out your process and you start, at the end of 2026
Yeah.
for 2027.
what we would do in that situation, we would
Add more funding.
encumber that money. So we would have to go through a process of encumbering that money with the city. And then that would allow the funds to basically still be something that we can allocate. So that's what we would do, and then, yeah. So
So
that's
do they call back what you don't spend?
if we don't encumber that money, they can take it back. So they can,
So you encumbered it for 2025.
correct.
Have you encumbered it for 2026?
We don't need to do that now because we have until the end of the year to spend it. So we're not going to spend it within that year. So like at the end of the year, the council goes through like consolidating all their books and everything. So usually sometime in November, early December, they usually basically that's the time that you have to get like that legislation and stuff to secure your money.
So if you do do it this year, when will applications be due?
I
Yeah,
don't
so,
think we can-
we haven't determined that part yet, but I did want to say, and just ask really quickly, because we can talk to you all afterwards, in case of just anything up here for anything that we have, has anything to, okay. And then, can we do it after we do that? Yeah, so I just want to, just so we don't have anything up here, so I want to adjourn the meeting, and then we'll still be here and we can answer your questions. So, appreciate that.